So the other day on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends, we covered Megyn Kelly interviewing Trump, and Megyn Kelly tried to grill Trump on COVID and Fauci and those issues. And I found that clip pretty annoying because it made me actually more sympathetic to Trump. Well, we have other clips here of Megyn Kelly, and look, to be fair, she did a better job than I expected. A much better job than I expected. But I want to take a look at some of these clips here, and we'll react to it. Let's start.
You also said recently that if you're reelected, you would send special forces and, quote, other military assets to Mexico to stop the drug cartels.
Credit to Megyn Kelly for asking this question, because this is like such a layup question, and nobody in mainstream media has sniffed it. Almost every Republican candidate is like, yeah, I would do war with Mexico. And the media is like, yeah, it's totally normal. Totally normal. That's not normal. That's crazy. It's like our top trading partner, and they're right on our border. What are you talking about? So credit to Megyn Kelly for asking this. Let's continue.
Mexican president is very much against this. You're going to start a war?
Well, he's a friend of mine. He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. He's a socialist, but you can't have everything.
Oh, that's funny. He's talking about AMLO. AMLO's not really a socialist. He's like a social democrat. But Trump is so funny. He's so transactional. It's like he doesn't care that the ideology is completely different. He's like, I don't know. He said nice things to me, so I kind of like him. Oh, classic Trump. By the way, I should point out, in this Megyn Kelly interview, she has the worst team around her for technology and recording and everything. And the screen just randomly goes black at various times. I think one of the cameras had like a lens cap on it or something. And the screen just goes black. There's also another part of the interview where she's asking Trump questions, and it cuts to like B-roll from before the interview when they were just sitting there chatting, and you got people like putting a microphone on Trump and walking around in the background, and you see Trump's mouth moving, but it doesn't match up with the words he's actually saying in the moment. Just total Bush League, terrible, team working on recording this interview. And you'll see, like, screen is black right now. That's because Megyn Kelly has some horrible people doing the job trying to record the interview. I'm sure she was livid, but you get an interview with the former president of the United States knowing a lot of people are going to watch it, and they mess up this bad? And guys, we're 3 days removed from this interview being posted, and it's still up just like this. It's incredible.
A lot of me were friends, and he said the same thing happened to him. He had a rigged election years ago. He said the exact same thing happened to him. No, I didn't say that. Somebody said I said that, and actually it was met with great applause, if you want to know the truth. They said that I said that at a meeting.
So you're not going to
use it. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do. I mean, I may do something. Something has to be done. Look.
That's so weaselly. Oh, that's so weaselly. Like, this should be the easiest question to answer in the world. Are you going to do war with Mexico? No. Next question. Because that's it, guys. I don't know how to say this any clearer. That is stupid. It is stupid to do war with Mexico. It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Ever. Ever. I've heard a lot of dumb things. This is the dumbest. And he's still dancing around it. Why? Even among the Republican base, it's not like this polls well. Like, what are you doing?
We're losing, I think, 300,000 people.
Okay, but let me ask you, I get it, and I cede to you that there's a serious problem.
We're losing more money than if we were actually in a war.
But
not money.
A lot of the Republicans are saying they're going to do this.
We're losing more lives. If we were in a war, we wouldn't be losing, because I believe the number is 300,000.
But we can't have a war with Mexico.
Okay, so he's talking about, what, deaths from drug overdoses? The number is actually 100,000, not 300,000. It's a horrible number. But nobody will tell you the truth about what to do to fix that problem. The truth is you have to legalize, tax, and regulate drugs. Get rid of the black market completely. Get rid of the cartels by putting them out of business. Now, in terms of people who are addicted to really hard substances, heroin, sometimes that's laced with fentanyl and people die, you should have universal rehab centers. In the same way we want universal health care for physical ailments, you also should want it for mental health treatment and addiction treatment. So that's what you do. And by the way, again, the reason why a lot of these drugs are tainted with fentanyl is because it's illegal, it's made on the black market, and so there are no quality controls. And so that's why people are dying. Nobody will tell you the truth. Not even the Democrats will tell you the truth. To be fair, the Democrats are much more pro-drug decriminalization. Biden just moved marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. You have various blue states that have legalized recreational marijuana and things of that nature. So they're better. But nobody will tell you, like, the real core of the problem here is that we've been doing a war on drugs for decades, and the problem has only gotten worse. And so their answer is, I know we've already militarized it, but let's hyper-militarize it and do war with our neighbor.
No, it's a war on cartels. Mexico's petrified of the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico.
But if we send our troops across the southern border, you know better than I do that the
but
Mexican
they're
president,
sending-
if he doesn't like it, we're in a war.
I know, but I'm not too worried about that war. No,
Well, you should be if you called for war with Mexico, and now you're hedging and acting like maybe I will, maybe I won't. God, I hate this so much.
Mexico is sending their troops into our country in the form of illegal aliens.
Oh, please. Please. A lot of the people who come here are from South America. They're not from Mexico. Some of them are from Mexico, but overwhelmingly, these are people who just want to create a better life. You know, they can't get a job, or they don't have enough food, you know, or they're scared of violence in their community and crime, and they come to the U.S. This idea, AMLO is sending Mexican troops into the U.S. to what? Lead MS-13 into killing America? Like, what are you talking about? Oh, my God, he's so stupid.
That are killing people in many cases, that are causing lots of disease and lots of problems. You know, they're coming in. I had the medical barrier that Biden dropped. I had every barrier you could have. Even the judge said, "Are you sure you want to drop?"
I had every barrier you could have. What does that even mean?
I don't think you should drop this. This is a terrible thing. The judge actually said that because
Title 42?
Yeah. Title 42. He said you can't drop this. He's telling them, but it expired 6 months later. He said, well, if it's expired, but you don't want a ruling. The judge didn't want to do it. He said, you're going to destroy our country if you do this. These people are destroying our country. And you know.
Okay. All right. You get the gist of it. Credit her for asking the question. He's slippery as hell. It's a terrible answer. The only correct answer there is to say, no, I don't want war with Mexico. That's dumb. All right. Let's continue.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the criminal cases.
Okay.
In particular, I'm interested in the obstruction case. Some argue that, criminal or not, you behaved irresponsibly with our national security documents.
I love how this is as tough as she's willing to go. It's amazing. It is amazing. Again, to her credit, I didn't think she'd ask anything on the criminal charges. Nothing. So she asked something, right? Better than expected, but this is as far as she's willing to go. You know, whether it was criminal or not, I think it's not criminal, but maybe you acted sort of inappropriately? Maybe? Just a little bit? Un poquito? Jesus Christ.
For example, we've all now heard the audio tape of you, post-presidency, showing third parties some sort of document that you're describing as secret. Allegedly, it was a Department of Defense Mark Milley plan to attack Iran. Now, this was at a meeting right here
Iran.
Bedminster, where we are now. You later told Brett Baer in an interview that you had no document that day, only newspapers and magazines. But we hear you on the tape. We hear you saying, quote, look, this was him. This was the Defense Department and him. It's highly confidential. This is secret. This was done by the military and given to me. As president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't. This is still a secret. Now, why would you describe a newspaper article as highly confidential and still a secret, saying as president you could have declassified it, but now you can't?
Let me just tell you something. Number one, I did nothing wrong.
Oh my God. This is the most Trumpy answer of all time. Holy cow. It's like super detailed questions about the specifics of what he said and what he did, and pointing out, like, even according to you, this was wrong. I did nothing wrong. I've actually never done anything wrong ever in my life. Oh my God, this is amazing.
I'm under the Presidential Records Act.
He is not under the Presidential Records Act. You weren't president at the time. And there is a process by which you declassify things that are classified. You didn't go through the process. This is what you alluded to in your own words at the time. I could have declassified this, but I can now. I can't do it now, but you want to see? Like, oh my God.
Fascists who are going after me, and they're not going after Biden, even though he has about 10 times more documents, maybe more than that. He has documents going back.
That is not true. Oh my God. First of all, he had way fewer documents. So did Mike Pence. Second of all, they complied 100% with the authorities as soon as they were discovered. Period. End of story. If you did that, there wouldn't be criminal charges about this against you. There wouldn't be criminal charges about the documents against you if, when they asked for it, you actually handed all of them over. Instead, you stonewalled them, you lied, you turned some over, you hid others, you commissioned people who worked at Mar-a-Lago, hey, take it from here to over here. By the way, destroy the tape showing you, the security footage showing you moving the documents. This is so Weasley. Guys, understand something. He is a pathological liar. Pathological liar. And the thing that I find amazing about him is, even though he's lying, very clearly, we know he's lying, look at how, like, passionate he is in defense of himself. He's so, like, how dare you? Of course I did nothing wrong. And gotta keep it real, That's a skill. It is a terrifying skill, but that's a skill. To be so indignant and arrogant and confident about, I'm right about this, even though you know you're wrong about it. We've never seen anything like this.
40 years or 50 years. We did nothing wrong. I come under the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to have these documents. This was done in 1978, and this was done for exactly this reason. I'm allowed to have these documents. The other side didn't even mention that. They don't even mention the words Presidential Records Act.
Because it doesn't apply for the reasons I described. Not even close. And he knows this. He knows this.
Presidential Records Act is very important. Bill Clinton took out in his Sox, it's called the Sox case,
I'm familiar.
where a very respected judge, very liberal judge, but a very respected judge, ruled in favor of Bill Clinton that he was allowed to take these very important documents, conversations with world leaders, took it out in his Sox. And they...
we covered this before. He's totally misstating the facts of this case to spin it in favor of his narrative.
Them in his sock drawer, and they call it the Sox case. Other people, too. We come under the Presidential Records Act. Now, who doesn't is Mike Pence doesn't, because he was a vice president, and he has a much higher standard. Joe Biden doesn't, because he was a vice president at the time, and he was a senator. He's got thousands of documents as a senator. And even I watched a couple of Democrat senators say very strongly, there's no way he took that out from the SCIF. He's got documents, and he's fighting them like crazy.
It's amazing how shameless the lies are, and Megyn Kelly's just sitting there at this point. None of that is true. Pence isn't fighting. Biden isn't fighting. They turned it all over. And by the way, notice he flipped it to be like, actually, for them having the documents, that's very bad. That's very wrong. That's not allowed. They have a higher standard. This is criminal. This is wrong. For me having it, well, that's totally fine. Presidential Records Act, I can do what I want. It's a skill to be relentlessly on the offense in your own favor when you know you're wrong, and that's what he's doing here.
I come under the Presidential Records Act. It's a very simple thing. Number one, it's civil. It's not criminal at all. True. These fascists and these Marxists and
these fascists, these Marxists, these Maoists, these Leninists, these Bakuninists, there's bad political words and labels. There are the bad labels. I'm the good labels. They're the bad labels.
People that are dealing, and they leak, and they're disgusting people. They're horrible for the country.
Disgusting. They're so gross.
We have a deranged guy named Jack Smith who's been overturned at the Supreme Court a number of times, and he gets overturned. You know why he gets overturned? Because he goes too far. They don't even mention the Presidential Records Act. This is all about the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to have...
He's just relentless repetition, It's that old saying that if you repeat a lie enough and you do it strongly enough and confidently enough, it just becomes the duh position. That's what he's trying to do with this Presidential Records Act defense. But by the way, this is not going to work in court. It's not going to work in court.
Documents. I'm allowed to take these documents, classified or not classified, and frankly, when I have them, they become unclassified. People think you have to go through a ritual. You don't.
He said a ritual. It's not a ritual. It's a process. It's a process. You know about that process, and you're lying pretending you don't know about that process.
In my opinion, you don't. But it's even beyond that, because the Presidential Records Act allows you to do, as president, only as president. Now, the other people that we talk about, including Biden, he wasn't president. So what he did is a different standard.
Broken record. Megyn, are you going to interject at any point with this barrage, this tsunami of absolute horseshit?
And he should have real problems. They really should be talking about that, not about me. I did absolutely nothing wrong.
Okay, but let's get to my question. Why would you be holding up a newspaper saying this is still secret?
I'd have to look at it.
I could declassify it if I were president.
I would have to look at it.
When you caught me in that moment where I was saying, I like crimes, I'm the crimes man, here I am committing crimes. Well, I have to look at it because I probably wasn't committing any crimes.
Well, I could have.
You told Bret Baier that was a newspaper.
I could have declassified. No, I also told Bret Baier, as I remember, I don't know, it was a long time interview.
Will you tell me what were you waving around?
I also told Bret Baier that it wasn't a classified document.
What were you waving around in that meeting? Because it certainly sounds like
I'm not going to talk to you about that because that's already been, I think, very substantiated, and there's no problem with it.
It hasn't been substantiated.
Actually, Megyn, have you considered I've done nothing wrong? Have you considered what I was doing was perfect? He does that whole tap dance too at one point in this interview. It was the perfect phone call. The perfect phone call. That was the perfect speech. That was the perfect crime. I committed the perfect crime. I mean the perfect non-crime because it wasn't a crime. It was perfect.
Jack Smith says
Megyn,
it was
let
the
me just
attack
tell
plan.
you.
You told Bret Baier.
Let me tell you. Here we go again. I'm covered by the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to do what I want to do. I'm allowed to have documents. The Presidential Records Act is civil, not criminal.
That's true.
In any way. It's civil.
True.
And I'm covered by it 100%.
Look, she's buckling. She's buckling now. She tried a little bit, push a little bit. Okay, but his overwhelming confidence and repetition of the bullshit wears her down. She's like, oh, all right, okay.
Can I ask you what you
And this
mean by
shouldn't
that?
even be a case. Now,
No, and I'm not trying to come at you criminally.
Of
I'm
course,
trying to say.
Of course you are. But listen,
no, I
it
started
should
off
be
by saying
Megyn, let me just
it's not
say,
about the criminal.
This should be a case.
Look, never enough. She's like, well, at the beginning, she was like, well, whether or not it's criminal is kind of irrelevant. The question is, wasn't this like inappropriate? Like that was the gist of the question. And he's like, no, you're trying to say I'm a criminal. I'm not a criminal, Megyn. You're wrong. And she's like, oh, I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. I'm scared of my own shadow. Don't hurt me, Papa. God, this is so pathetic. All right, I got one more clip for you. Let's keep going.
No, but it's very important for people to know
because
this.
Republicans are bummed out. They're thinking, I'm not even going to vote. Forget it. My vote's not going to count.
It's just the opposite.
They're going to get it by the mail-in ballots again.
They're going to vote in numbers that you've never seen before because they see what's happening.
Should they do the mail-in? Should the GOP voters do the mail-in?
Okay, here's what we can't allow. Yeah, I would say let them do it either way. I'm less on that. I like the Tuesday stuff, but then you see what happened to Carrie Lake, where all the machines were broken, or a big portion of them.
Wouldn't it be smarter?
Oh my God. Okay. So what's going on here is Megyn's giving him an opportunity to say, look, I messed up in 2020 when I said don't do mail-in voting. I should have said do mail-in voting because Biden absolutely draxed Trump when it came to mail-in voting. And in a lot of the states, the mail-in votes were counted second. So what you had was what was called the red mirage scenario. It looked like Trump was leading, and then Biden ended up winning fairly easily. And that, again, that's the red mirage scenario. And that's all because he downplayed, don't do mail-in voting because it's rigged, it's messed up, don't do that. So now Megyn Kelly's given him an opportunity to say, hey, in 2024, do the mail-in voting. Do it because we want to win. He still can't bring himself to just be like, yeah, do it. And he does that. And it's rigged. And I like voting on election day, but even on election day, they rig it. You saw what happened with Carrie Lake. Yeah, we all saw what happened with Carrie Lake. And the courts did too. You know what they said? You're a liar. You lost the election even though you're pretending like you didn't. Same thing they said to Trump. Republican judges, Trump-appointed judges, and over 60 court cases were like, you don't have a case here. You're wrong. His own Department of Justice, Republican secretaries of state, Republican governors, everybody whispering in his ear who had half a brain cell saying, you are wrong. You didn't win this election. But here he is out there denying, again, this is the same, this is like Groundhog Day, right? Same thing over again. He's already downplaying the legitimacy of the next election now. And, God, there's no way this ends well. None of this is going to end well. If Trump loses the primary, he'll say it's rigged. If he loses the general, he'll say it's rigged. If he wins both, then we get Trump for president for 4 more years. There is no way out of this. This is a nightmare.
Make some vote before
well, no, you could, but
day.
the problem is they throw the votes out. I mean, it's crooked. We have a
wait. So be clear. What is the message to the voters? Do you want them to do the mail-in vote, or no?
Everybody, people say yes, do it. We have a bigger problem. I believe they send in fake ballots. Okay, that's the bigger problem. That's your third problem. I believe they send in a lot of fake ballots.
So if he wins the primary, which is overwhelmingly likely, and then let's say he loses to whoever the Democrat is, which, again, is probably the most likely scenario, given how extreme he is and how every normie and moderate and independent on Election Day is going to go, oh, I mean, that guy's got 91 criminal charges. He's kind of crazy. He says suspend the Constitution. I don't want to vote that way. Okay. He's letting you know right now. There's either going to be like another January 6th, or he's going to try to do lawfare again to stay in office. And this time, who knows where it'll end up, right? Thankfully, he's not the incumbent, so he doesn't have all of his hand on the levers of power like he did back then. But who knows what'll happen, right? Because he's letting you know. He's already broadcasting it. And here Megyn Kelly sitting across from him just trying to be like, walk him through it like a toddler. Like, hey, are you telling people to vote by mail so you can win? Please say yes. I'm trying to help you here. He's like, actually, everything's rigged. Everything's gross. Everything's disgusting. And I won then. Carrie Lake won. I'm going to win again. But they're going to rig it. They're going to rig it. It's going to be terrible. God, again, there's no... Oh, this hurts my head. God damn it, man. Again, there's no way out of this. There's no way out of any of this. This is going to be a nightmare for the country. Like, I can already sense it. Everything was already messed up enough with January 6th and downplaying the results of the election and COVID and everything. He's letting you know we're going to do it again. We're going to do the same thing over again.
When you look at some of these elections, in Pennsylvania, I was leading by so much at 9:30, and all of a sudden, voila, they happened to find a lot of ballots.
God, this is so dishonest. Guys, I was on Rogan's election night stream. You go back and watch it. At the beginning of the night, when people were still voting before we got any votes counted, I explained to everybody there's a scenario that is likely to happen called the red mirage scenario, What is that? Basically, what that means is in most of the states, the votes on election day, the ones that were cast on election day, get counted first. Trump is going to win those votes because he would impress upon his base, you have to vote on election day, vote the day of. So the people who showed up on election day were overwhelmingly likely to be Republicans. They were. So it looked like Trump was leading in all these different places. And my point was, everybody hold your horses. I'm telling you in advance. The red mirage scenario is likely. It's going to look like Trump is up in all these different places. But then when the mail-in ballots start coming in, it's going to balance out. And it's likely Biden will pass because all the polls showed he was the favorite by, a solid amount. But either way, he's going to close the gap tremendously and likely pass. Red mirage. Any election expert knew this. Anybody who read 4 articles on what's going to happen on election day knew this. And he uses that as like the centerpiece of his conspiracy that actually he won the election. This is incredibly dishonest or stupid. There's no other way around it.
Elections are crooked. Our elections are rigged. Our borders are open. Our country's in trouble. Our country's in trouble. And now they're arresting and indicting their political opponents.
Yeah, because you committed 91 crimes. All right, look, we're done with this. But you get the gist of it. I have to say, NBC also did an interview with him the other day. Kristen Welker, I think her name is. And none of these people, even Megyn Kelly, who does a better job than most interviewing him, none of these people are prepared to handle this man. He's too slippery, he's too confident, and he's too charismatic, and he ends up just destroying all of them without trying. And only interview him if you know what you're doing, right? Like if you can handle him in a way that makes sense. And I haven't seen anybody be able to handle him in a way that makes sense. It's kind of embarrassing. Every word out of this man's mouth is a lie. And if you're not willing to handle that and respond to it effectively and to handle him rhetorically, then just don't do it. Don't do it. You're not helping anybody. So disaster on top of disaster within disaster. And this interview was a colossal train wreck from beginning to end. She asked some questions I didn't expect her to ask, credit her for that. But as per usual, Trump did his Trump thing and gets away unscathed. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.